They got the wrong man, a true tale. On Tuesday, May 4th, 2006, a federal jury awarded to Dr. Dana Ruhlman $285,000 from CU to compensate her for sexual harassment. In the next 10 minutes or so, I will present to you some facts that the jury was not allowed to hear. If they had, they would have never awarded Dr. Dana Ruhlman any money whatsoever and might have very well suggested some jail time. In the spring of 2000, I took some 16 CU students on the study abroad program to Australia. Here you see our cast of characters. R. Igor Gamov, dive master Terry Moore, and you see Dr. Dana Ruhlman. We spent a week on spoil sport diving in the Coral Sea off the coast of Australia. Here you see Dr. Dana Ruhlman and myself going up the gangplank of spoil sport. Here you see Terry Moore, spoil sport videographer, frolicking with some customers. Here you see Dr. Dana Ruhlman being interviewed by Terry Moore. A great deal of time was spent on playing with and teasing sharks. The jury was not allowed to learn that Dr. Dana Ruhlman has and had a common law husband. Specifically, the jury was not allowed to hear that Dr. Dana Ruhlman's significant other, her common law husband, had previously testified to CU that not only did he not believe that Dr. Dana Ruhlman was ever sexually harassed by Professor Gamov, me, but that he has numerous emails from her stating that fact, and he would use these emails against her if she ever fucked with him again. CU was barred by Judge Warren Miller from presenting this evidence to the jury. I will now give you some background. During the entire trial that should have lasted 10 days, but it only lasted 3 days, Dr. Dana Ruhlman never presented one shred of evidence that I, in our 8-year acquaintanceship, ever sexually harassed her. On the other hand, she certainly convinced the jury, and apparently everybody else in the room, including myself, that by January of 2001, she was a complete mental wreck and appeared to suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, which was confirmed by psychotherapist Dr. Diane Pohl Heller. She told the jury that I had first forcibly raped her on Valentine's Day, 1995, and ever since that day she has suffered post-traumatic stress disorder. She also maintained that I continued to rape her another 80-some times, but stopped in 1998. I and others, including my wife Elfrida, testified that during the period from October 1992 to October 2000, her behavior and demeanor appeared quite normal. I described in great detail both our close business relationship and our personal relationship to the jury. And since this record is, or soon will be, available, I will not repeat it here. I also testified that between the years of 1988 and 2002, I had been the director of a study abroad program that was administered through the San Institute, Kathmandu, Nepal, of which I am a co-founder. During this period, I had gone on 22 trips with some 200 students. In the late spring of 2000, I had an opportunity to add a study abroad program to Australia, in addition to my later trips to Nepal and Tibet. Dr. Dana Ruhlman was invaluable in scheduling my trips as well as organizing a communication network for me. Never once did she ever express any interest in going on any of my study abroad trips. However, in the fall of 1999, when I was organizing my first study abroad Australian trip, Dr. Dana Ruhlman expressed a strong desire to go with me and my students. This, in fact, came to pass. Since 1 week of our 2-week trip took place on a dive boat in the Coral Sea, all my students, as well as Dana, were required to have passed a dive course, i.e., to have certified dive card. Dr. Dana Ruhlman tried several times to pass a dive course in Boulder, Colorado, but she was unable to obtain a certificate. Tom Maddox, a professional diver and organizer of the trip, told me that he would make an exception and would certify her once we were in Australia. So off we flew. The trip was long and very beautiful, and all went well. Dr. Dana Willman, as well as many of my students, rented scuba gear, and off we sailed. To the surprise of all of us, Dr. Dana Willman's fear of water was so strong that she never even initiated one dive, whereas the students were diving an average of 3 times a day with a maximum of 5 times a day. Needless to say, Dr. Dana Willman was not a happy camper. Since it was clear to all on board that Dr. Dana Willman was having a miserable time of it, one of her Australian dive masters who worked on the boat as a videographer befriended her, which of course was his job. And then he started a romantic relationship with her, which was not part of his job. The romantic relationship resulted in the dive master being fired. His name was Terry Moore. In August of 2000, Terry Moore arrived in Boulder, Colorado, and moved in with Dana. Dana, until Terry Moore's departure from Boulder, paid for all his travel and living expenses, which even included a family membership to the CU Recreation Center. From the time they first met until his departure from Boulder, she considered Terry to be her significant other, and she made it clear to everyone that Terry Moore was to be her lifetime partner. She investigated, through me and my family, what it would take for him to obtain a green card. She tried to obtain a job for him in nursing, but all her efforts failed. Finally, in October of 2000, she asked me whether I would hire him as a program director for my Australian Study Abroad program. When I told Dana that for a number of reasons I could not, she became furious with me and told me since I fucked up her life, she was going to fuck up my life. Although we continued to teach together for the next 2 months, no civil word has passed between us to this day. Terry Moore left Boulder abruptly in late December of 2000, and I maintain that the dramatic end of their relationship caused Dr. Dana Willman's mental breakdown, not my alleged rapes many years before. The rest of the story was told to me via telephone by Terry Moore after he left Boulder. He told me that Dana believed that she could easily obtain millions of dollars from CU if she filed a sexual harassment charge against me. Terry Moore told me that at first he went along with this plan, thinking perhaps this is the American way. In fact, they both went to see a local attorney, Christina James, to learn what it would take to sue CU for lots of money. When he first told me that story, I told him that even in America this is called extortion. At first he disagreed with me, but later conceded. When CU's defense attorney, David Temple, asked Christina James the nature of their visit, George Johnson objected because of client-lawyer confidentiality. Judge Walker Miller ruled that since Dr. Dana Willman testified under oath that she was living with Terry Moore and they had been intimate, he was indeed her significant other, and he did not allow the jury to hear Christina James' testimony. If the judge had ruled otherwise, the jury would have learned that Terry Moore was indeed Dr. Dana Willman's common-law husband, an obviously important new fact. Finally, Dr. Paul Heller, Dr. Dana Willman's psychotherapist, testified under oath that because of my actions beginning in 1995 and ceasing in 1998, Dr. Dana Willman is unable to have a normal relationship with a man because she has been so badly damaged. Dr. Paul Heller saw her for 30 hours at $300 an hour. I assume that she never learned from Dr. Dana Willman that she had a common-law husband right up to the time Dr. Dana Willman started her therapy. It appears to me that both Dr. Dana Willman and her attorney, George Johnson, misled both the jury and the judge, and this ruse should or could be the basis of a mistrial or an appeal. The jury certainly concluded that Dr. Dana Willman was terribly damaged and that this damage came from some man, but they got the wrong man. Factual material obtained from Transcript of tape-recorded telephone call, March 27, 2001. Participants: Professor Neil Ashby, Co-Chair, Sexual Harassment Committee. Terry Moore, interviewee, former dive master. A 1.5-hour phone conversation, August 18, 2001. Participants: R. Igor Gamov, former CU professor. Terry Moore. These two documents, Professor Ashby's interview with Terry Moore and Dr. Dana Ruhlman's senility complaint, both under seal by CU, could have exonerated me if they had not been suppressed, and possibly I would not have been found guilty of sexual harassment. I was, in fact, found guilty of sexual harassment in April of 2001. CU seems to have a habit of simply suppressing any evidence that is favorable towards a faculty member they are trying to dismiss. In addition to hiding relevant evidence, CU undertakes a witch hunt to find some fileable offense once it has been decided a tenured faculty must be eliminated. Certainly not all CU faculty, but many, would fare poorly if they were subject to the same in-depth investigation that I, and recently Professor Churchill, had to endure.